Oh.
So,
This is my Passover.
as you know, Passover
First week of April.
is always a problem when it comes to Passover. Now, some people want to say it's 7 days, but we know it's what? 1 day, don't we?
Mm-hmm.
So, let's start in Exodus chapter 12 and verse 14. And it says, and this day, notice, this day, not days. Exodus chapter 12, verse 14. Shall be unto you for a memorial, and you shall keep it a feast to a hire throughout your generations. You shall keep it a feast by ordinance forever. You see that?
Mm-hmm.
Even though Passover is not a feast day, it is a work day. You can work on Passover day. You see? But Passover is what? The preparation day for the Feast of Unleavened Bread, which is a high day, which is a feast day, which is a non-work day. Okay? So everything that you supposed to, that you want to cook and eat on unleavened bread, you get it on when? On Passover day. Right? Think about this. We started out. Is Passover a 7-day feast or a 1-day festival?
1-day festival.
Let's look at it like this. To get a full revelation of Passover, it's like the picture on the front of a puzzle box. Right? Because on the picture on the puzzle box, it shows you the whole thing. But when you're working with the Most High, what does he do? He gives you pieces of the puzzle and not the whole picture at one time. Isn't that correct?
Mm-hmm.
That means that you got to search out the other pieces. And what am I saying? Sometimes he might give me a piece. He'll give other people a piece. And so we come together and we put the pieces together to get the full picture. You see? Think about it. When we started this walk, what did we learn first? The traditional picture of Passover. Didn't we? That the rabbis painted for us.
Yeah, everybody knows.
But was it the biblical picture of Passover according to Scripture?
It actually wasn't. That's why people come from synagogues to churches, leave the synagogue and churches, and get all these different tattoos.
And so now we got two things going, and so sometimes things get distorted in our understanding of Passover.
Because the pastors and people are
so that's why some issues come up. Mm-hmm. And some people are troubled.
And getting lied to, that's why.
But is it contradictory?
Yes.
Let me show you something. Let's go to Ezekiel chapter 45 and verse 21. And this is where the confusion comes in at. Ezekiel 45 and 21, because people don't understand. It says, in the first month, in the 14th day of the month, you shall keep Passover. No problem with that, is it?
Facts.
But then there's another comma, isn't it? Then it says, a feast of 7 days shall unleavened bread be eaten. What is the problem? You put Passover with a feast of 7 days. Passover, you eat unleavened bread, right?
Right.
And then if you got a feast of 7 days of unleavened bread, that's 8 days.
Doesn't make any sense.
So that passage do not tell you that Passover is a feast of 7 days. It is not a feast of 7 days. It says a day. Didn't we just read that?
Mm-hmm.
Then we start out with saying it's a day, it's a memorial. That it's a memorial.
That's what they call it, a Memorial Day.
You see how things get messed up? What did Leviticus 23 say? In the 14th day of the first month, and even, that means in the evening, we mean this sundown, is a highest Passover. When is this Passover? On the 14th day of the first month, just like Ezekiel wrote it. In the first month, on the 14th day of the month, you shall have the Passover.
Right.
Period. What confused people was that they didn't put a period. Then they didn't put a comma.
Oh.
Look at verse 6. It says, and the 15th day of the same month is the feast of unleavened bread unto a higher. 7 days you must eat unleavened bread. That's what Ezekiel said. A feast of 7 days unleavened bread shall be eaten. Y'all see that? You gotta pay attention. And it says, and in the 14th day of the first month is the Passover of Ahiah. You see how it's emphasized that the 14th day of the first month is the Passover of Ahiah? And then it emphasizes again, and in the 15th day of this month is the feast. 7 days shall you eat unleavened bread. You see, I read Numbers 28, 16 and 17, didn't I? You see, I read Numbers 28, verses 16 and 17. See, I read Numbers 28, verses 16 and 17. So you see, all the passages of Scripture is telling you that Passover is a one-day event occurring on the 14th day of the first month. And then starting the 15th day to the 21st day is the Feast of Unleavened Bread, 7 days. Y'all got that? So 8 days altogether you eat unleavened bread. Is that clear? Are we clear? Just look at it. Ezekiel said the Passover. Yeah, he did tell you that on the 14th day was the Passover. Then it was a comma there that said in 7 days you should eat unleavened bread, didn't it? So if you count Passover when you eat unleavened bread and then you eat another 7 days, that's 8 days, people, that you will eat unleavened bread. Passover is not included in the Feast of Unleavened Bread. The 14th day of the first month is the Passover. You see? Ezekiel did not teach anything different, did he?
Nope.
You just got to pay attention to what's written. He told you the 14th day of the first month is the Passover, and then 7 days later, then the next 7 days you're going to still eat unleavened bread because it's a feast. Ezekiel would not contradict Torah. then he tells us that the Feast of Passover is a 7-day feast. But Passover is a 1-day memorial, which is kept like a feast by ordinance forever. What do Luke? Let's go to Luke, chapter number 24. Work with me. Luke. I want to go to Luke. Yes, ma'am. Luke. Yes, ma'am. Luke chapter number 24, verse number 25. Then Yeshua said unto them, O fools, and slow of heart to believe all that the prophets have spoken. What did he say? We got to be doers of the word. What do it mean? It means that we are to be wise, we are to believe, and if you believe, that means you do. That means do means you obey the words of the prophet. Right? So people try to confuse you with Ezekiel, trying to say Ezekiel said one thing when he didn't. Watch this. In the first month, on the 14th day of the month, you shall celebrate Passover. Watch this. This is another version, comma, and for 7 days unleavened bread shall be eaten. That makes it more clear to some people that are not spiritual, isn't it? Mm-hmm. Because did you eat unleavened bread on Passover? You better believe you did. So it's letting you know that for 8 days in a row, you're going to eat unleavened bread. You see? Ezekiel prophet. So sometimes prophets, when they speak, they what? They hide truths, don't they? That you got to search out. Mm-hmm.
Excuse me.
Are you hearing me?
Yes.
But we have to understand that's what? Passover and unleavened bread are two separate events. One is on the 14th and one is on the 15th, isn't it? Mm-hmm. So, what do Passover speak about? It speaks of the true sacrifice of Messiah, doesn't it? As seen when? In the original Passovers, while they was where? In Egypt. And then it was demonstrated by Messiah where? In the Gospels. Let's go to Exodus 12 and 27. Come on, work with me. Hope y'all got it. Exodus chapter 12, verse number 27. It says, then you shall say, it is the sacrifice of a highest Passover, who passed over the houses of the children of Israel in Egypt when he smote the Egyptians and delivered our houses and the people bow the head and worship. You see? When was it to be killed? Let's go to Exodus chapter 12 and verse 6. I'll read verse 5 too. It says, your lamb shall be without blemish, a male of the first year. You shall take it out from the sheep or from the goats, and you shall keep it up until the 14th day of the same month, and the whole assembly of the congregation of Israel shall kill it in the evening. So they took the sheep or the goat, when? On the 10th day of the first month. And when did they kill it? On the 14th day in the evening. They cooked it the same evening and they ate it the same evening. Let's go to the 21st verse. Then Moses called for all the elders of Israel and said unto them, draw out and take you a lamb according to your family, and kill the Passover. Don't Corinthians 15 tell us that Yeshua is our Passover? When was he crucified? On Passover. Mm-hmm. Let's go to 2 Chronicles 30 and 15. Then they killed the Passover on the 14th day of the second month. And the priests and the Levites were ashamed and sanctified themselves and brought in the burnt offering to the house of Ahiah. See, what they had stopped doing what Father had said, didn't it? When could you do it on the 14th of the second month? If you was unclean on the first month.
Okay. So I think you should.
And how did you eat it? You ate it with what? Unleavened bread, didn't you? Let's see it. Y'all need to see the scripture. So I'll read it. Exodus 34. Exodus 34 and 25. You should not offer the blood of my sacrifice. You should not offer the blood of my sacrifice with leaven. Neither shall the sacrifice of the feast of the Passover be left until the morning. So what is he saying? You ate it with unleavened bread, didn't you? You didn't leave no meat over till the next day. So when is Passover? Every week, every month, or is it once a year?
Once a year.
It's once a year. So let me show you something in Exodus chapter 12, where we started at. Verse number 14. Got to go back again.
Sorry, verse number 14.
And this day, listen, and this day shall be unto you for a memorial, and you shall keep it a feast unto Ahiah. Throughout your generations, you shall keep it as an ordinance forever. What was he telling us? That Messiah is telling us that the Passover is to be observed every year on the 14th day of the first month for a memorial or remembrance of Messiah's death. Okay, Luke 22. Can you get me? Luke 22. 22. Let's start at verse number 19. It say this. And he took bread. Who took bread? And Yeshua took bread and gave thanks and brake it and gave unto them, saying, This is my body, which is given unto you. This do remembrance of me. Likewise, also the cup after supper, saying, This is the cup, is the New Testament, or the New Covenant, in my blood, which is shed for you. So what has religion done? They have taken verse 19 and 20 and turned it into what? What is called communion or the Eucharist. Okay? And they say you can do it whenever you want to do it. Been there, done that. But when did Yeshua do it?
On Passover.
When did he institute it?
On Passover.
He instituted it at when? At Passover. I submit to you that when they went from house to house breaking bread, they was not using unleavened bread. They was using leavened bread. So leavened bread is not what you use at Pesach. That is called fellowship. You understand? Because isn't the Feast of Unleavened Bread only done once a year, starting the 15th day of the first month?
15th, yep.
The Feast of Unleavened Bread is done, start. So the 7th-day Feast of Unleavened Bread speaks of the complete time of the believer during which lifetime he is to live a life of unleavened, of sincerity and truth. The unleavened life, however, is not automatic, is it? But it's contingent upon our experience of the Passover, which must occur first. So if you don't have Passover, how you going to do unleavened bread?
Facts.
Let me qualify that statement. Your Passover, of him passing over you, can happen any time, in any month, on any day. Your personal Passover, when you could have been dead. That's the Passover I'm talking about. See, he passed over you. He didn't let you die, did he? You see? See, think about this. Once we have had the 7th-day Passover, you know you done been born again. You've been keeping his commandments. Guess what? Now, we personally start doing what? Living a perpetual state of keeping the feast of sincerity and truth. Don't we supposed to do it every year? Don't we supposed to do it every week? Don't we supposed to do it every month? That's perpetual. That's continuously, isn't it?
Keeping the Sabbath. Yes.
Everything in its time and in its place.
That's why you see me doing it and recording this video right now.
The day Father filled you with his spirit was the day he filled you with his spirit.
Today.
It ain't the same for everybody. Do you remember that day?
Yeah, I do.
I remember well.
Very, very well. Remember that day.
Okay.
As you should.
Let's look at Paul for a minute. The apostle. Let's look at Acts chapter 13. Acts chapter 13. Let's look at verse number 1. Now there were in the congregation that was at Antioch certain prophets and teachers, as Barnabas and Simon that was called Niger, and Lucius and Cyrene and Manaen, which had been brought up with Herod the Tetrarch and Saul. Who were they? Prophets and teachers. That's what the scriptures say, right? Paul tells us that he writes to the believers, and he called them brethren, who knew the law, the Torah, in Romans chapter 7, verse 1. Let me show you. I know y'all, how y'all are. Romans chapter number 7, verse number 1. Know you not, brethren, for I speak to them that know the law, or the Torah, how that the Torah has dominion over a man as long as he liveth. That's what? In the Hebrew sense of the word. Paul is writing to those who experience Torah, who keep it, who guard it, who obey it. He was not writing to those who don't know it.
They don't care to keep it.
Like most people today. They will misunderstand most of what Paul's message is.
And act like they know it.
Because Paul had been born again, that is, Messiah had been birthed in him. He got filled with the Spirit of the Most High.
You act like you know something.
Open his eyes, didn't he?
If you know, if you think you're saying it's the truth, shouldn't you be following it?
Did Paul observe what was written in Torah? Verse 2. Did we read that scripture and say there was what? Prophets and teachers. Yeah. Didn't it? And what Paul mentioned. Did Paul observe all things that was written in the Torah? Let's look at it. Acts chapter 24 and verse 14. But this I confess unto you, that after the way which they call heresy, so worship I the Ish Elohim of my fathers, believing all things which are written in the law and in the prophets. That's what he said. So he understood that. He understood it, and that's what he did. The Torah, the writers, the prophets. So Paul says, purge out the old leaven, that you may be a new lump, as you are unleavened. For because even Messiah, our Passover sacrifice, is sacrifice for us. Therefore, let us keep the feast not with the old leaven, neither with the leaven of malice and wickedness, but with the unleaven of sincerity and truth. 1 Corinthians chapter 5, verse 7 and 8. Remember Ezekiel 45:21? Now Paul is revealing to us some stuff that was hidden. And then he tell us that Messiah is our Passover sacrifice? That he been sacrificed for us? Yeah. So we are now, what? Unleavened because of who? Oh, because of Messiah. And so now we must keep the feast of unleavened bread, which occurs what? Only after, as a result of what? The Passover. You can't keep unleavened bread unless you do Passover. So a lot of people is trying to do Passover when they're supposed to be doing Feast of Unleavened Bread, but they didn't do Passover. Passover is the 14th. So if you didn't do Passover on the 14th in the evening, You can't do Feast of Unleavened Bread. Huh? You can't do that which is second without doing that which is first. You out of order. Unless what? You was unclean. Let's look at some things that Apostle Paul taught us. Let's look at what he revealed to us. In Philippians chapter 1, verse 21, he says, for Messiah is my life, and to die is gain. Colossians 3 and 4. When Messiah, who is our life, shall appear, then shall you also appear with him where? In glory. So Colossians is what? Telling you that there is going to be what? A next Saul. What we call the rapture. A catching up. How else you going to appear with him in glory and you on the earth? Mm-hmm. How else you going to appear with him in glory if you sleeping in your grave? Yeah. You got to be resurrected and caught up. Don't let nobody lie to you talking about it ain't going to be no next Saul. It's going to be a next Saul. It's going to be a catching up. Everybody ain't going to get caught up. Galatians 2:20 says, I am crucified with Messiah. Nevertheless, I live. Yet not I, but Messiah liveth in me. And the life which I now live in the flesh, I live by the faith of the Son of the Most High, who loved me and gave himself for me. So that tell you right there, you